What up, everybody? It's season 26 here on the Virtual Football Network of the Simulation Football League. And back for his 9th ever schedule release show, 9th consecutive, I might add, schedule release show. It's Mike St. Green, now your new wide receiver in Fort Worth. How are you, Mike?
Doing great, Cam. Feeling fantastic, feeling energized. You know what I feel like, Cam? I feel like I'm born again, just like Apollo Creed when he went to, his comeback match against Ivan Drago. But you know what? Wait a minute, Nix, that didn't work out too well for Apollo in that comeback. So I just feel great to be here, man. But and as people saw in that notification about 30 minutes to an hour ago, man, you're a cruel individual. You're going to, as you mentioned, new wide receiver in Fort Worth, and you're going to make me wait 15 weeks before I could get on the field and take on the Houston Headhunters. That's just terrible, man. I thought we were better than that.
I'm a tease, man. And you know what? Hey, at least that Apollo fight was better than the Jake Paul one last night, right? That dude
that didn't work out well for Jake Paul either.
Well, hopefully season 26 works out better for all of you than it did for Jake Paul last night as we go through the entire slate of games. A very evenly balanced, well-constructed schedule this season with 21 teams, 3 divisions of 7. Everybody plays half their games against their divisional opponents. And with the new playoff format, it ratchets up those division games even more because now second place has something on the line because second place gets the first round bye.
Yeah, Cam, this is probably going to be one of the more interesting and competitive seasons that we've seen in many, many seasons in the SFL. The condensed playoffs, the condensed teams, so to speak. So a lot of this talent is being, actually concentrated to fewer teams. So it's going to be competitive. It's going to be interesting. The playoffs race is going to be mad. So every game, as it typically does. But man, every game right now is going to be of utmost importance every week in this SFL season.
Oh man, CJ Parrish. He knows what's up. 1999 Super Chat. Detroit! That's your first team schedule we're going to look at here today. But let's start with the opening week slate of games as we do every single season. And it starts, of course, with the defending champion, the Vancouver Legion, our first new defending champion since, Mike, remember?
First new defending champion since...
It's been a minute.
It had to have been Baltimore several seasons ago.
Atlanta season 14.
Wow. Okay.
Last time. It's crazy, but yes, we finally have a new champion. $25 super chat. Arizona, let's get it. The money is flowing. We're ready to go. Let's not waste any time. Let's get to opening night. That starts with Vancouver hosting Arizona. The Arizona Scorpions last season to open the season at the Baltimore Convention went to Mexico City, the defending champs, and they beat them. Can they do it again? They get another opportunity as the Legion raise their first banner at Canada Field. Also on Friday, DC at Carolina, a rematch of week 1 of last season. Why would you say, Cameron, why would you put that matchup again in week 1? Actually, the schedule is done completely at random in terms of placing games where they go. It just so happened that DC and Carolina are at it again. Birmingham at Bossier City. We get to see Jack Wigmore's first game as the quarterback of Bossier City hosting the Birmingham Hellhounds, and Minnesota at Albuquerque in the nightcap. 2 teams that kind of underperformed last season. One of them will get a win, another will take a loss to start opening night. On Saturday, Detroit at Lexington, a battle of top high-paid rookies that we'll talk about more in a little while. Los Angeles at Florida, Pittsburgh at Mexico City, and Oklahoma City at Washington in the nightcap. And then the Monday Night Spectacular, as mentioned earlier in the forum last night. Miami at Anchorage, 4,926 miles for Miami to go all the way back to Anchorage in the SFL's first game in Alaska since season 13. That's your opening week 1 slate. Mike, what sticks out to you? What do you think?
Well, Cam, let's get this. We talked about 9 seasons of tradition, so let's go ahead and get this early tradition out of the way. Yes, Eddie. Yes, Arizona. You have the toughest schedule in the league history. And yeah, of course, that's why it started off with Arizona against Vancouver. That's what caught my eye immediately, because I said, man, we're going to hear this early on in this schedule release show. But I tell you, another big one on Saturday night, that Pittsburgh and Mexico City matchup. Pittsburgh took a huge step forward last season. Of course, Mexico City going to their third consecutive championship game, falling a little short to eventual champions Vancouver. But this is going to be a matchup between 2-9-3 teams from last season. Both of them are going to be competing heavily for this SFL championship this season. And as you mentioned, going back to Alaska for the first time in many seasons. And then, of course, that's kind of strange going back to Alaska. They're playing a team from Florida, actually in Miami. So that's going to be a pretty cool matchup on the initial Monday Night Spectacular of season 26.
Yeah, certainly a very interesting one for sure. Between Miami and Anchorage, of course, two new identities too. We get to see what their uniforms look like. I know Destro's been working on Anchorage, and man, some of those helmets. I mean, you know how Destro does. I mean, yeah. Anchorage is going to look good. We know that. Miami will as well. Sam Blotner holds down the uniform designs over there, and it always does a terrific job. That's a look at opening weekend in the SFL. Now, of course, we got to talk about the Monday Night Spectacular schedule. And this season, the Monday Night Spectacular gets an added boost because bingo is coming to Monday night broadcasts, and that gives each player an opportunity in the SFL, whether you're playing or not playing, to earn money in your team bank. We did this for the first time at the SFL convention in Baltimore. It was a huge success when we had 4 games going on at once in the red zone format, and now we have an opportunity on SFL and UFL broadcasts for SFL players to earn money in their bank through bingo. Of course, Charles Doherty will be back as the Monday night analyst as well. But lots of fun and exciting things coming on Monday nights this season. Let's take a look at that primetime slate. We start with Miami and Anchorage in week 1. Florida at Houston in week 2. For Houston, it's the first time that Florida has visited Houston, I believe, since I got the notes right here. Since season 17. That's the last time Florida visited Houston, so we'll see them in week 2. Mexico City at Birmingham, the Hellhounds home opener in week 3. How about Vancouver at Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh has not ever faced Vancouver, and they will for the first time at home in primetime in week 4. Detroit at Minnesota, the Monsters of the Midwest, and now the Monsters potentially of the North Division, squaring off in their rivalry in week 5. DC at Vancouver, 2 top teams from last season in week 6. Week 7, Pittsburgh at Carolina. This one is interesting, Charles, because the new starting quarterback for Carolina is Charles Doherty's player, right? Well, Charles Doherty drafted Ace Fennick, Pittsburgh's starting quarterback, when he owned Lone Star way back in the day. And now they will play each other as opposing quarterbacks on the same field. Pittsburgh at Carolina in week 7. In week 8, every team has a universal bye as we take a midseason break. Week 9, Detroit at Arizona. Week 10, Minnesota at Chicago. Week 11, Washington at Vancouver. You know that's going to be a big one in the West. The division came down to it last season. Week 12, Lexington at Pittsburgh. I can never say their rivalry name exactly right. The Pennsyltucky? I think it's the Pennsyltucky. First time in Pittsburgh. It happens in week 12. Minnesota at Arizona. Houston at Bossier City. And then Washington at Mexico City closes us out in week 15. What do you think about the primetime slate?
Oh, yeah, the initial game that stands out outside of the one we mentioned earlier, but the Miami Anchorage game, Vancouver at Pittsburgh in week 4, that's going to be huge. And Vancouver, man, they are all over this Monday night map, and it's earned. They're the defending champs. They're the best team in the league right now until someone proves differently. That Pittsburgh-Carolina game, as you mentioned, is going to be interesting from, the Charles Doherty and Ace Fennick standpoint. One that I, being a former Houston headhunter, that stands out to me is that week 14, Houston at Bossier City. I'm pretty sure Damon and everyone over there is going to have that one circled. And why that is significant to Houston and me being a part of Houston, Bossier City, the last week of the season last season, pretty much knocked Houston out of the number 1 seed in the playoffs, and that pretty much, kind of was the difference in that Vancouver matchup when Houston had to go on the road as opposed to playing that semifinal game at home.
They will remember that for sure. And I think, the games in the back third of the season, they all can be flexed out if necessary. But I think the league's bet is the law of averages. Bossier City lost a lot of close games last season, but they got that big win over Houston at the end of the season. So Bossier City, with their pickups, probably will have a bounce-back season, you would think, and you would expect Houston and Bossier City to be right in the mix at the end, just like Washington and Mexico City down the stretch in Week 15. I mean, it's hard to imagine that game will not matter.
Yeah, I think most of these games are going to matter, Cam, one way or the other, whether it's who's going to be first or second in these divisions, or who's going to be fighting for that 10th playoff spot late in the season. So one way or the other, I think this is going to be, like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a competitive season. I think most of these teams are going to be, well coached, well, stocked with talent. So I think we're going to see just competitive games throughout the schedule all season.
Let's get to some matchups that have piqued our interest since free agency happened last week. Of course, we had a ton of player movement around the league, got a lot of interesting matchups. Most of them actually made the schedule. Some of them didn't, but that's how the chips fall. Let's take a look at some of those very interesting matchups. Let's start in Week 1 with Detroit and Lexington. So Hudson Cruz, the cornerback for Lexington, signed a $9 million contract. Now, he was bested by running back Rashawn Williams of Detroit, who signed a $9.1 million contract. So you got the two highest paid players, one on the offensive side of the ball, one on the defensive side of the ball, going against each other on opening night or on opening weekend. That should be interesting. Week 3, DJ Kilgannon said after one day in Arizona's locker room, it's the best locker room he's ever been in. Well, he takes on his old team, Chicago, after that statement in week number 3. How about Johnny Pickler? He signed with Oklahoma City as the Renegades hope to fight back. He goes back to Bossier City in week 3 to take on his old team. In week 4, Mickey Malillo does the same thing. He goes to Minnesota, takes his Steamers to Minnesota to take on the Legend in week number 4. Also in week 4, Trellis Blanton, he was the starting quarterback in Denver. They said, hey, we got another plan. We're going with Goodman. So where's he going to go? Well, he goes to Miami. Well, now all of his friends from Denver come back and take him on in his new home. Week 6, Detroit at Birmingham, rookie running backs battle. That's Rashawn Williams, the $9.1 million man in Detroit. And then for Birmingham, it is just quick looking at my notes here. It is Dominique Kane and Bailey O'Shaughnessy dueling in the backfield, so we expect a lot of running in that one. Week 7, we already talked about Pittsburgh, Carolina. Also week 7, Miami at Bossier City. Jack Wigmore meets longtime teammate Ivory Irvin. Irvin signed with Miami. Wigmore signed with Bossier City. That was probably the most dynamic duo in terms of quarterback and receiver last season they face on different teams. Week 10, Ron Haynes goes back to Florida. He left Florida to go to Mexico City this offseason, and he will return to Florida later in the year. Week 11, how about this one, Mike? Eric Barkley sells the franchise that he's owned since season 1 to Anchorage. Then his player signs in Fort Worth. Now Anchorage and Fort Worth play in Week 11. Week 13, a battle of two top veteran quarterbacks, Ace Fennick and Ty Patak, late in the season in a key divisional matchup. And then your return to Houston in Week 15 with Fort Worth. What do you think about the spotlight games? Which one stands out to you?
Well, excellent games, but that week 1, that $9 million game stands out to me, Cam. My eyes are definitely going to be glued to this matchup because I'm curious as to what a $9 million player is going to look like on the field in the SFL. I definitely want to see if we can actually, see a tangible difference in that much of a value on a player. It's going to be interesting to see that one. Obviously, that week 15 personally stands out to me, but the other one that's going to be kind of weird, week 7. Jack Whitmore on one side of the field, on one sideline, Ivory Irvin on another with Miami. That's just going to be strange, actually, just seeing both of those guys in different uniforms, regardless of if they want opposing sides or not. As you mentioned, week 11, Fort Worth against Anchorage with with Barkley going back, playing against his team that he just relinquished. So going to be an interesting matchup there as well. But man, yeah, these $9 million players, Cam, I'm going to be curious to see any game that any of these guys are involved in to see how they perform on the field.
Yeah, week 7 with Wigmore and Irvin. I mean, they just been together for so long. It's just going to be so weird to see them in different uniforms. But can you imagine Mickey going back to Minnesota and making a kick or missing a kick in that environment? He missed a few at home over the past couple of seasons, and who knows, maybe that led to a parting exit. But it's going to be really interesting to see if he can have an impact on that game in a critical non-divisional tilt. So that's a breakdown of some of the spotlight games around the league, but it's now time to get to your super chats. It's now time to talk about the teams specifically, the dates, the times, the matchups, the homes, the aways. What stands out to us? Detroit is up first, thanks to CJ Parrish's $19.99 super chat. Let's take a look at the Detroit Maulers schedule. They start at Lexington, but their home opener will be in week 2 against Carolina. They got a pair of road games at Minnesota and at Birmingham. That Chicago, Minnesota in week 4 and week 5. They actually start with 4 straight divisional games. Lexington, Carolina, Chicago, and Minnesota to start the season. And then they end the season with a pretty tough road. Houston, D.C., Pittsburgh. Back to back to back to end the stretch. If you don't see a week there, that is your bye. So for Detroit, they have byes weeks 2, 8, and 11. What do you think of Detroit's schedule?
Yeah, it's funny that CJ got in here first, because this was actually one of the schedules that stood out to me in pre-production that you sent me over. And I'm going to sound a little bit contradictory to what I've been saying about everything being competitive, and of course it will be. But as you just pointed out, the tougher part of their schedule is at the bottom. And what I noticed with them when I had a chance to initially look at this is that they have opportunity to really, if they, have things ready, good to go from day one with the way that defense played out at times last season. These guys have a chance to jump out, playing division opponents and get a leg up in this division early on.
Another test is 5, 6, and 9, having at Minnesota, at Birmingham, at Arizona, and 3 of the first 4. They do get a little bit of a reprieve with Oklahoma City, who we're anticipating will be at the bottom of the standings, but hey, you never know in the SFL. Robert Henson Jr. with the $9.99 super chat saying, Cam, we do get games in Detroit, right? Well, yes, absolutely. 6 games, in fact. Carolina at the week 3 home opener for Detroit. Detroit was that close, Mike, to making the playoffs last season. They didn't have any of the tiebreakers. They were right there. Some notes on Detroit's schedule. It's the first time they will ever go to Arizona. It's the first time they will ever host Los Angeles. It's the first time they will ever go to Pittsburgh. And it's the first time they will ever host Carolina in franchise history.
Yeah, that's going to be some interesting matchups there for the Detroit Maulers. And yeah, you mentioned they were right on the outside looking in, and watching them all of last season. That this team. They played like they were right there on the cusp. Certain weeks they would look, fantastic. Some weeks, they would things would get away from them. But man, I expect some great things from Detroit this season.
Next up in the super chat game was DJ Kilgannon, $25 super chat. Thank you, DJ, very much. We've got Los Angeles on tap as well. Let's go to let's go to Arizona's schedule and take a look at what the Scorpions have in winter 2026. They start with a pair of road games at Vancouver and then at Oklahoma City. Their home opener is week 3 versus Chicago, as previously mentioned. Then they get Washington at home week number 4 before going to Fort Worth and D.C. They finish off the season at home against Minnesota and at home against Anchorage. Their last 4 games are against teams that did not make the playoffs last season, and the expansion Birmingham Hellhounds. If you want to throw Detroit in there, that's 6. Their last 6 games against teams that technically did not make the playoffs last season. What do you think of Arizona's schedule?
So I guess my initial statement was inaccurate, that the Arizona Scorpions have the toughest schedule in the history of schedules because the math says otherwise. If you're playing 6 teams the last half of the season that did not make the playoffs, Arizona. So, hey, you can't point the finger at the schedule maker this season. You guys have an opportunity to go out there and make some noise. And we know you're a solid franchise, but, and you guys are going to definitely make some noise with whatever schedule you have, whether it was tough, quote unquote easy, whichever the case may be. But we expect some great things from Arizona as usual. That Week 6 matchup, man, I see that with Fort Worth there, DC, also right there in the middle. Washington, yeah, it's going to get tough right there in the middle, as well as you start off with the defending champ. So tough early, probably not as tough late, but Arizona, we expect you to be competitive as you always are.
It's the first time ever that Arizona will host Chicago in franchise history, and it's the first time since season 21 that they will welcome Minnesota to their place. Mike Dagg's sadness in the chat that Mexico City's not on the schedule. I guess that's what happens when you lose the championship game. It's not as difficult of a road because Arizona has had their number recently, although Mexico City had the last laugh in the playoffs.
I don't believe Mike Dagg's on that one. I think he wants about as easy a road to the championship as he could get.
That's right. So that is a look at Arizona's schedule. Coming up is Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Lycans, thanks to the owner Sully Richardson with the hashtag change the narrative, hashtag Fortress Super Chat for the LA Lycans. Will this be the year of the Los Angeles Lycans as we I think all in the league, the darlings of the league, continue to hope that Los Angeles can turn things around? This is what their schedule looks like. 3 of their first 4 are on the road, but it's against 3 teams that did not have a winning record last season. At Florida, at Minnesota, at Albuquerque. Washington is their home opener. They also get Oklahoma City in Week 6. On the end of their schedule, they have 3 home games to close out the season, but 2 of them are extremely difficult. Mexico City and Vancouver, 2 teams that played for the championship last season. 3 of 4 in the middle stretch of the season as well on the road. Anchorage, Detroit, Arizona. Your thoughts on Los Angeles?
Yeah, obviously Los Angeles, Cam, they have a lot to prove, and you know me, I've been waiting on this team for many seasons, it seems like now, to take that next step forward. We'll see what happens this season, but it doesn't start off easy. Florida was not the Florida Storm that we're accustomed to seeing last season, but hey, we expect them to be just as good as they have traditionally been, over the history of the league. Washington, that's a great team there. Minnesota, they're looking to bounce back. Albuquerque as well, and gets a little soft there in the middle, so to speak. But LA, they're going to have a lot to prove this season, Cam. And one side note, as much as I've rooted for these guys to take the next step forward for so many, I didn't get a call from these guys, Cam. That was kind of surprising. But anyway, you never know what would have happened.
Well, Los Angeles is always full. They got a good culture there. They I guess they didn't need you, Mike, but and you know what? That's a good thing, Los Angeles.
No one needs me. That's part of it.
I think that middle of the schedule, Oklahoma City, Anchorage, Carolina, that's LA's opportunity, right? Can they sort of seek and destroy and take matters in their own hands? And certainly with Mexico City and Vancouver on the in the back part of that schedule, they're going to have to stack some wins. And they do have a Week 15 bye as well, so that's worth noting. If they were to potentially be waiting for a playoff spot, they would be waiting an extra week. All right, let's go. Super chats are rolling in. We've got Carolina next, a $6.69 super chat from Harish Prasad saying, and I quote, "Cam, you have nice legs." I couldn't agree with you more, Harish. It's just what did they say in the chat? Like a smooth red oak, according to Sully. Hey, listen, I love the bro love around here. All right, Carolina's schedule. They open with DC, as mentioned. They also get Houston and Miami at home in the first 5 weeks. Only one road game in the first 5 weeks. That is Detroit. They have a Week 2 bye. The back end of their schedule, they play 3 of 4 on the road: Chicago, Oklahoma City, and Bossier City. I'd say the teeth of the schedule is probably in that 4 to 7 range. You got the rivalry game with Miami. You know that game that, they always give their best, and then Houston, Minnesota, and Pittsburgh in there as well, pretty challenging. But the Skyhawks coming off a down season, trying to turn the tables and bounce back.
Yeah, what better way to break in a new quarterback and try to have a bounce back season than starting, with 3 of your first 4 at home. One big reason why these guys could bounce back. Can that running game return, to Carolina as it did in season 24? If they can get that going, and get this, get this new quarterback broken in and used to this system that they want to run, we could see, the sky's the limit for the Skyhawks, no pun intended.
They got that stretch between 11 and 13, Lexington, Chicago, Oklahoma City. All 3 of those teams love to throw the ball, so your secondary better be ready for that stretch of the season. Carolina's never been to Detroit. They've never hosted Pittsburgh. They've never been to Chicago, believe it or not. They've never been to Minnesota. So a lot of first-time matchups, and it's their first trip to Oklahoma City since season 13. So a lot of newness and new faces on that schedule for Carolina. How about a $19.99 super chat from Anchorage's owner, Ryan Davis? Boy, has he exceeded expectations this offseason, getting the Wolves ready for their first season in the SFL's return to Alaska since season 13. Where will Anchorage fall in a very crowded and competitive Western Conference? The Wolves open on Monday night against Miami. Then they turn it around 5 days later and take on the Lexington Miners in their first road game. They've got at Mexico City, at Washington. Rough. Week 4 and Week 5. That's a tough back-to-back. And then they finish out the season with Birmingham and Arizona in their last 2 games.
Yeah, Cam, one thing about moving from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast, now you get this tough division that you're going to have to play in with Albuquerque and Vancouver and Arizona. So, yeah, it's going to be tough out west. One thing I will point out, man, I like these kind of snowy looking colors. They look like a cold city.
That's right.
I do. With these colors, man. I kind of like that's going on. I can't wait to see what those uniforms look like from the Anchorage Wolves in week 1, but man, maybe we'll see some preseason action. I'm not sure, but yeah, tough schedule for these guys with the division matchups that they have. The one, then you look at Mexico City in there as a non-divisional opponent. So it's going to be a tough sledding for these guys, but I'm pretty sure, these guys are ready to go, new franchise, and they're looking to make some noise in this SFL season.
I always look at games like Fort Worth in Week 11 and Albuquerque in Week 3. These are teams that finish 6-6 or 5-7, kind of around where Anchorage finished. These are the games that are most interesting to me because can you take the next step? Can you beat those teams? Because it's much harder to beat Mexico City or Vancouver. Like, can you just take the next step up and win those games? Those games are going to be critical on their schedule.
And yeah, and that's usually the way it happens, right, Cam? We kind of know, typically we identify early on, or either traditionally, who the better teams are in this league. I know it changes and fluctuates from season to season. We understand that part, but the money is made with the 500 teams, with the teams that may be one step below 500 and are looking to take that step forward. What can they do against one another, and far as taking that big step, making the playoffs, and then hopefully making some noise there. But yeah, those are going to be the big games for all the teams that are looking to get into the playoff picture and bounce back from a not so great season the season before.
A $5 super chat from Yogi Bar. BCS, Bossier City, is ready for season 26. Aren't they ever? They kind of stole the show a little bit, along with Fort Worth on the free agency frenzy. They made a lot of big moves. What can they do this season? They finish off the season with home games against Houston and Carolina. They've got road tests at Mexico City and at Anchorage on the back half. Pittsburgh and Mexico City back-to-back in weeks 10 and 11. That's tough. They open up against Birmingham, and then they travel to Fort Worth, the 2 teams that made the most noise, arguably, in free agency this season.
Yeah, and this is going to be an interesting team to watch this season, Cam. I know they had some departures. Dave Axel's retiring. They moved on from Johnny Pickle and bringing in Jack Wigmore. I'm not sure. I don't have it in front of me. I didn't see what they did to replenish the receiving core, or maybe in the offensive backfield over there. But kind of in the lines of Carolina, I want to see what these guys are going to be able to do with a running game this season. Can they get something going on the ground? But I always thought the last couple of seasons, that's what they were missing, consistency on the ground. It's going to be huge as to what they're going to be able to accomplish. But yeah, it's a tough division that they're in. Houston, Mexico City, Fort Worth, to name a few that they're going to have to play. Florida's in that division as well. So it's going to be tough for a team, as we just mentioned, that's trying to take that step back up into playoff contention and championship contention as well, that to overcome. But we'll see what how this team can gel with all the new faces.
Mike Daggs and Gerald Smith get that Mickey Melillo return game to Minnesota Friday at 8, the day before Valentine's Day. No love lost. And shout out to Mickey Melillo, who also gave a $9.99 super chat wanting that Bossier City schedule. There it is. A lot of intrigue, especially in the early part of that schedule. And expecting that the law of averages are going to be more in Bossier City's favor this season. It's hard to lose that many close games and it not just be simply unlucky for the Steamers. $4.99 super chat from John Fullerton. I got 5 on it. Hashtag Chi-Town. Technically, you have $4.99 on it. I'm just saying. Came up a penny short, but you know what? John will forgive you. Let's take a look at the Chicago Warriors schedule. They always do things a little bit differently, Mike, and Chicago certainly did that this offseason. They are bulking up. They've got 2 running backs, including Logan Lee, in their backfield, and then Pauly Truth and Weapon X, Xavier Solomon at tight end for Chicago. So it's a whole different looking team. They open with Vancouver, then 3 in a row on the road at Arizona, at Detroit, at Florida, then back at home against Mexico City. Their back half of their schedule, at least at the bottom, ain't that easy either. Pittsburgh and Chicago. Maybe the middle's where they can do some damage. But, man, tough draw for Chicago in the first 6 weeks. They do get a week 1 bye, an extra week to prepare.
Yeah, now, Cam, this may possibly be the toughest schedule that we've seen so far, and we may see all the way around in this league, just as far as the way that the home road thing goes, as far as the matchups that we're seeing the matchup with on the road, and then you have to come back home after a long road trip to play Mexico City. So yeah, this may possibly be the toughest, and if they can manage this schedule, they're going to deserve anything that they can get come later in the season. If they can get through this thing and run this gauntlet and make the playoffs, man. Chicago, they made a lot of noise last year. They did some positive things. I really like the signing of Logan Lee in that backfield, so that maybe they're going to commit to the run a little bit more. But we know these guys can pass the ball around, throw it around, and get it to their weapons. And so we'll see what happens with them. But man, tough schedule, and if they can manage it, sky's the limit.
They're one of those teams that could start a little slow. We kind of forget about them, and then they could get hot because they have 5 straight divisional games, week 7, and then back-to-back bye weeks, Minnesota, D.C., Carolina, Pittsburgh, all in a row. When you got divisional games all in a row late in the season like that, if you get hot, right, that divisional record's going to matter, and Chicago could start to make some noise.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Cam. If you can get on a roll, and it seems to kind of snowball if you can do that, and then if the Warriors can pull that off, yeah, we'll see what happens later on in the schedule.
You were chuckling because Damon Simeon's $10 super chat is next. H-Town is ready to run it back. Dropped MSG and picked up Mac Chima. Now that's news to me. I didn't realize that. That's an interesting signing. Warren Murray is coming home. Just teasing with you, Mike. Love you, buddy, and good luck to you. I gotta peep this Houston roster here. He is right. Warren Murray and Mac Chima, some late signings. Houston pulled through. Okay, Houston Headhunters, I see you. What's your response, Mike?
Well, one, with bringing Warren Murray back, I'm curious as to what happened with Blue Scott or either Tino Martinez in that backfield. That did a great job for Houston last season, and I'll let him have it. And since he publicly said it and gave $10, I'll let him have that. He dropped me, Cam. I'll let him have that one. I won't dispute him too much right here since he's donating a little bit. But man, yeah, Mac Chima is a big pickup for Houston to replace myself, and so yeah, that receiving core is going to be just as good and just as solid as it's always been. These guys, Cam, they work hard over there. They're really ready, I think, to take the next step, and just missed the championship game by a few points, and I'd expect nothing less from Houston this coming season.
Chino Sosa is still there. They also picked up Hattori Hanzo from Carolina at fullback, so Houston's been making some moves. late down the stretch here in free agency. Let's take a look at the Headhunters' schedule. They start with home games against Florida and Pittsburgh. They have a 3-game road trip late in the season at Minnesota, at Detroit, at Bossier City. Sandwiched in between those games is an absolute gauntlet. Week 7, Vancouver. Week 9, Mexico City. Week 10, Washington. Then the 3 straight road games, and then at home against Fort Worth, their rival. That might be the toughest back half of a schedule we've seen.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough back half, but I can tell you one game for sure that Damon has circled. That is Week 10 against Washington. That has turned into a bitter off the field rivalry, a bitter in chat rivalry. These teams and front offices don't get along, Cam. That's going to be one that I'm going to circle as well, because I'm going to have to see it, if nothing else, to see the back and forth chat.
Houston and who?
And Washington.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, in Week 10. Absolutely. That's Saturday night in prime time. In week number 10, I was catching the chat, seeing what they were saying.
That week 7 against Vancouver, obviously the rematch of the semifinals. This time at home, that's going to be big, and obviously always with Mexico City, that rivalry is etched in stone as to how tough that one is. These teams are always back and forth, close ball games. Season in, season out, going to be interesting with Mexico City, and then of course. That rematch with Bossier City, Bossier City knocking Houston out of our home field throughout the playoffs last season, and of course the Fort Worth game.
Robert Thump already in the chat, 2-0 versus Houston. Children, like it's just childlike stuff in the chat. Sometimes in this league.
It started already, Cam. I'm telling you that they're looking forward to that Week 10. Trust me.
Absolutely. So that's a look at week number 10. $4.99 super chat from Mickey, because I still have love for them. Let's see Minnesota. So let's take a look at the Minnesota Legend season 26 schedule. Minnesota a little bit disappointing, but they get Chris Komisak back as coach, and Komisak was at the Baltimore convention. We know that he can coach. Now Minnesota's schedule is bizarre. One of the most bizarre schedules maybe in SFL history. They have 2 home games or 2 road games to start the season and end the season. They have 5 in a row at home, and weeks 7 and 8 on a bye. So between week 3 and week 9, they don't leave St. Paul, Minnesota, but they do finish with 4 of their last 5 on the road, including trips to Arizona, Pittsburgh, and Chicago. A wonky schedule for Minnesota, but how do you take it, Mike?
Yeah, Cam, that's definitely one of the strangest schedules that you would ever see come out in this league. But and I'll tell you what about those 5 consecutive home games, you can make some hay with that schedule. Los Angeles, Bossier City, Detroit, Carolina, all of those teams are on bounce back type seasons. They want to, these teams are either under 500 or right at 500, aside from the DC one. But yeah, you can make some noise at home with that many home games in a row, and then you start off the season on the road against Albuquerque, that's under 500, and a Miami team that's brand new. So that's going to be interesting for them. They can, with Komisak coming back, as you mentioned, coaching, Minnesota could get off to a fantastic start.
And Florida, not on Komisak's schedule for Minnesota. It's worth noting that 6 teams will have back-to-back byes in the middle of the season, because everyone has a bye in Week 8, and we have an odd number of teams. And so that's just natural with the schedule. But Minnesota also gets the Week 15 bye. They have 1 home game left after Week 9, and that is against Houston. So Mickey is hashtagging Spay the Cat. That's in reference to Week 5's Monday night game against Detroit. Of course, the flag incidents, also all sorts of stuff going on with Minnesota and Detroit. It's good time.
Yeah, Minnesota, they love a good rivalry. We definitely know that.
That's right. we love how they've embraced them here on this show. Okay, rapid fire now as we get to some teams that did not super chat. Let's talk about the defending champs. They do not get Mexico City on their schedule. A rare season without a championship rematch. I think we've seen it enough, don't you, Mike? Mexico City and Vancouver. It's just, all right. It's a little old now. The end of their schedule is, for a defending champion, is surprisingly light. Florida, LA, and Oklahoma City. LA being the divisional game, but Vancouver's meet is definitely right there in the middle of the schedule with DC, Houston, and Washington, along with Birmingham right after that. What do you think of the Vancouver Legion's draw?
Yeah, the defending champs, and one thing about Vancouver, they have been perennial great, great season in, season out every season, and they finally got over the top this past season. But yeah, starting out with Arizona, Chicago, Pittsburgh, tough. DC tough right there in the middle. Of course, the big rematch with Houston, Anchorage, a division rival there, and then as you mentioned, it kind of tapers off towards the end with Oklahoma City, Los Angeles, Florida. But Vancouver, they're going to be great. Pretty mixed match type schedule. When I look at it, doesn't look too tough, doesn't look too easy. But Vancouver, they're going to be great regardless. That's what we know about this franchise. And by the way, talk about being great video. Andy put out the other day. I got a chance to see that, man. It was a great video. I really enjoyed watching that. What Andy Hamilton put out. Just great information and great ambassador for his team and the league with that video he put out.
Yeah.
Yes. Vancouver, we know what to expect with these guys. Whether it's a tough schedule, quote unquote tough schedule, quote unquote easy schedule, these guys are going to manage it and be great no matter what.
The last 4 teams, team videos are going up and in the queue, so we look forward to those. Thank you to all the team leaders who were kind enough to get on camera and really put a face to their franchise and their organization. It makes a big difference, I think, not just now, but in the future. For anyone that's new coming into the SFL, we want people to see our passion. So that's a look at Vancouver. Fort Worth said in the chat, must be nice to be in the West. Anchorage, Los Angeles, and who am I missing? One other team, Albuquerque. They were not playoff teams last season in the West. Washington, Vancouver, Arizona. I'm trying to remember the divisions off the top of my head here as I look at the logo line, but
it changed so much, Cam.
I know it's changed so much.
I'm getting older. I can't remember all that.
But
stuff.
you know what? If a couple of those teams improve this season, all of a sudden the West is the best division right in the league. So there's nowhere to hide anymore in the SFL. That's for sure.
No doubt about it, Cam. That's the probably. I hated to see a Baltimore leave. You hate to see, and when I thought about it, man, that was 11 championships that left the league between Queen City, Baltimore, and Denver. And but what it's done though, man, the condensing of the teams has really is going to intensify the competition every weekend. It's going to be just fun to watch, man. I can't wait to see it.
It reminds me a lot of season 8 when the Minneapolis Maulers won the championship and then they folded, and then the Louisville Wolfpack were in the championship game and they folded, and it was sort of a changing of the guard at that point. We lost a lot, to your point. We lost a lot of former champions. That means that there's a lot of teams left that have not won, and their odds just went up exponentially to go and get there first, and they're definitely going to be gunning for it this season. Let's go in reverse alphabetical order as we continue through our rapid fire here on the Schedule Release Show. Thanks to everyone who put in some super chats. Washington, they start easy. Oklahoma City, Los Angeles, quote-unquote easy, based off of historical context. Then they get D.C. and Florida in week 3 and 4. That is a tough way to end, though. Houston, Vancouver, Chicago, all on the road. Birmingham, Mexico City, a tough ending for Washington.
Yeah, we mentioned we've all circled our calendars for Week 10 with Houston. That Vancouver matchup, that could possibly be interesting coming down late in the season. Teams hunting that 1 or 2 spots in the division that we just spoke about. Birmingham, I'm interested to see Birmingham. Cam, we know they are pretty much Denver, probably with some add-ons, obviously, and probably doing things a little differently. But looking forward to that matchup as well, is just to see what Birmingham may look like at that point in the season.
Let's go with the Pittsburgh Riverhogs. The Riverhogs start at Mexico City. Their home opener is week 2 against Albuquerque. A pretty balanced schedule here. They don't have a lot of, tremendously gruesome road games, although 4 of the first 5 weeks taken on arguably the 4 best teams from last season. Is a really rough way to start.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a really rough way to start. But and as you were saying that, and as we're seeing this unveiling of this schedule, my thought was last season a fluke, or have the Pittsburgh Riverhogs arrived? And it's going to be a big question that they're going to have to answer early on in week one with Mexico City, and then followed by Houston and Vancouver a couple of weeks after that. And then wow, then I look down even further to see DC. So that question is going to be answered early on for them to see if if this last season was a fluke, or are they for real. And in some talkings that I had with them, Cam, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they're for real, because this organization is very professionally ran. It's really, I really like what these guys are doing over there. So I would be surprised if they take a step back, but it's going to be a tough schedule that they're going to have to prove it against.
4 straight divisional games, 3 of them at home to end the season for Pittsburgh. Could get them on a roll. That means that they don't have any home divisional games in the first 10 weeks of the season, and they have an extra week to prepare against Detroit in Week 15 with a coveted Week 14 bye, so a very interesting end of the schedule for Pittsburgh. Oklahoma City, most interesting team in the league perhaps, because in some areas they got a lot of talent. In other areas they don't have hardly any talent, but it was announced earlier today that if you don't have 26, they could potentially get up to 26 by getting some extra and additional players in there. It remains to be seen. I think it's going to be the last roster that really comes together. Can the Renegades find some rhythm? 1 win in their first season, 2 wins in their second season. It might not start in the first 2 weeks. At Washington and versus Arizona is a tough way to start. But after that, 4 straight non-playoff teams, Bossier City, Lexington, LA, Detroit. They've also got Anchorage in there in Week 10. They cap it off with Carolina and Albuquerque, and then the defending champs. I mean, they're in the division, right? I mean, what are you going to do? You got to play them at some point, and it'll come Week 15 at home. What do you think about Oklahoma City's draw?
Yeah, and third season back, as part of the league, and they've struggled, Cam. Let's just call it what it is. They've struggled. Their roster has been thin over the first couple seasons that they've been back. I think Johnny Pickler was a great pickup for this team. And as you mentioned, that they're talented in some areas and maybe not as talented in others, but I expect them to throw the ball around. I mean, Johnny Pickler has been one of the top quarterbacks in this league for 12 plus seasons now. So I expect them to at least move the ball on offense, and they've kind of had flashes here or there. So they can be dangerous, on any given sim day. So we'll see what happens with them. Tough schedule for a team that's won 1 or 2 games. It doesn't matter who they're playing. So they're gonna have to overcome some roster shortcomings and see if they can get a couple of wins under their belt.
Let's look at Miami next. The rival of Florida, that for the first time will be in Week 14. So Miami at Florida on a Saturday afternoon in Week 14. That comes after Miami goes to Mexico City in Week 13. Their home opener is Week 2 against Minnesota, a fairly balanced schedule. They do have a southern sort of whip around. Houston, Bossier City, and Fort Worth, Week 6 and 7. They get 2 weeks to prepare for Fort Worth. In Week 10, what do you think of Miami's schedule?
Yeah, I was actually hoping that we would see Florida on this schedule, Cam. I was happy to see that. Miami against, I think Florida's calls Fort Lauderdale home, which is basically very, basically the same city for the most part. I know they're not
half an hour away.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see that Florida rivalry, and especially with it being, almost within the same city limits, so to speak. So that's going to be great to see that one. And the rest of the schedule is going to be interesting because, to be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about Miami. No one, I don't think anyone does at this point. That rosters seems a little bit different than, I guess they are remnants of Charleston, but we'll see what they can do over there with this. I know they have 2 quarterbacks. That was interesting to see. I don't know how that works out these days, but we'll see how that does. I know Amon Kopak's been in that situation before where he's been on the roster with another quarterback, so we'll see how that goes. But it was just kind of interesting to see them do that. seeing that Kopech seemed to have kind of come into his own a little bit. But schedule's going to be interesting. We'll see how they're going to do with it, and I'm more interested to see how those uniforms are going to look with those color, but that color pattern, that's a uniform I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that one turns out.
If you do it right, it can be very Spurs-esque, right? You get the dark tones, and then you use the bright lights to really shine. I tell you what, Trellis Blanton, who was the quarterback last season in Denver, he's got maybe one of the most talented receiving cores in the league. You got Al Dillapre from Sin City, Ivory Irvin from Baltimore to go along with Doug Spelling and Nick Twice. They also have 3 tight ends. They also have 3 running backs. So Miami, a very compelling team. $12.83 super chat from Mike Daggs. I've seen bits and pieces of the Aztec schedule. Let's see the rest. Hashtag 12 forever. Your wish is my command, Mike Daggs. Mexico City hosts Pittsburgh to start, then at DC, at Birmingham. That's a runner-up schedule right there to start things off. Their rivalry against Fort Worth in week 5. They have 4 of 5 on the road, weeks 2 through 6, without any buys in there. Their buys come in weeks 7, 8, and 14. So a slug-it-out slate through the first 6 weeks. Then they come back with Houston in week 9. Ron Haynes returned to Florida in week 10 before finishing off the schedule at home against Miami and Washington.
Yeah, that division is still that division, right? Most of those teams, if not all of them, are still there from the South, the old South. But then you add in some of the non-divisional games, Pittsburgh and Chicago. You throw those guys in there, and then you add Florida to this division. It's like Florida, they're not going to be down forever. So we're going to Mexico City. They've, as you mentioned, a tough draw. We don't know what's going to happen later. We don't know what Miami is going to be. I think Washington, they're going to be just as good as they were last season. So yeah, the 3-time championship game participants, they're going to have a tough road to get back for number 4.
Question in the chat from Bachagalupi. Why would you sign up to be a third halfback? Well, fullback slots, substitutions, all moving everybody around, all sorts of stuff. Hey, how about a super chat from Skippy? That was a $4.99 super chat. Cameron, your shirt is okay. Not as nice. Not as nice as the legs. I would agree. Let's take a look at Carolina's schedule. Actually, haven't we been here before?
We've been here before, Cam.
You know what? One more time for Skippy's sake.
It's like deja vu all over again.
We didn't talk about how they get 3 of their first 4 at home. I think Carolina, more than any team, is looking for a much faster start after really a one of the slowest starts in league history last year, where their offense couldn't get first downs. We'll see how they do in the first 5 weeks.
Yeah, as I mentioned, they're going to break in a new quarterback, and this is probably a good way to do it with 3 of the 4 games at home, and they're going to have opportunities to prove themselves and try and bounce back from a down season from the previous season 24. So yeah, Skippy, your luck is going to be cut out for you as far as the bounce back, but you're going to have an easier time of doing it with the 3 of the 4 first games at home coming out of the chute.
Charles Doherty, new offensive coordinator over there in Carolina, too. We'll see what happens with them. How about the Lexington Miners? They had a very difficult season last season where they just couldn't – something wasn't right. Something just wasn't fitting in Lexington. They get 3 consecutive games at home and a week 3 bye. Then their first road game is at Oklahoma City in week 5. That's about as good of a – if you're hoping for – building some positive momentum, that's about as good as you can get. And they better build some positive momentum because 4 of their last 5 are on the road. That's how it works. That's how the cookie crumbles, including at DC in week 15.
Yeah, and Cam, it seems like things in Lexington have been quiet this offseason. It seems to me it was quiet in free agency. They seem kind of quiet over there. I don't know what that means coming into this season, but 3 straight home games that started off doesn't hurt anything. I can tell you that. And then after those 3, they have 2 on the road, and they come back home for another 2. So these guys are going to have some home cooking early on in this season, and then quiet or not, they're going to have an advantage that they can take advantage of by being at home so many games coming out.
Yeah, they still got Gabriel Manning. They still got Kenny Slider. They got a full team and a full roster. Lexington is reloaded and ready to go. It's just a matter of turning those losses into wins. It was definitely a puzzling season for Lexington last go around. Let's go to Fort Worth. Let's talk about the Fort Worth Toros schedule. They get Bossier City in Florida at home, a pair of Southern rivals after a week 1 bye with an extra week to prepare. Mexico City and Arizona coming to town before Birmingham. I want to pause. $25 super chat from Charles. The Carolina rookie quarterback is getting hazed because his player was all you mentioned. COC charge being drafted. Please mention other standout players on the team. Oh, okay then. Well, that is a very generous super. So let me just take a pause. Riley Quintero, Ike McBride, Mateo Pravado, Harish Prasad, Chase Earl, Adam Banks, Chris Curtis, Jack Flash, Lily Nakai, Brunter Grayjam, Chris Cross, Ricky Rigatoni, Brookie Burr, Kate Palmer, Phil Hall, Christopher Colon, LJ Hobbs, Shravan Prasad, Moja McClain, Danny Stinson, Tristan Hatley, Davidson Joseph, Dre Pope, drafted last night, Mike Ryan, Skip Palmer, Rochelle Colston Malone Brown. That's a team, Mike. That's a team.
Well, I was actually going to say, do they actually have any other players? But but I digress. But I only kid, Charles. Trust me, I'm no big deal. I don't have the roster right in front of me, so I didn't know who all that you had. But I knew. I know you just named the running back that switched to running back. That's. I mentioned him the first time around. I mentioned
Quintero,
more than just one player the first time around. But
well, you know,
we're good.
Sometimes things fall through the cracks. But Fort Worth, back to Fort Worth.
We're talking about Fort Worth right now.
5 of their last 7 games are on the road. They are one of the 6 teams that have back-to-back bye weeks in the middle of the season. Week 8 and Week 9, they finish at Carolina at Houston. What do you think of your Fort Worth Toros?
Yeah, and throughout history, Cam, that like as you know, we've done this a lot of years and a lot of seasons, and Worth they've always, it seems like since their inception, have been championship. We've always thought about them as, hey, they've been taking that that one next step for a championship. We're going to see with the way that they've loaded this roster, if they can take advantage of the way they loaded this roster and apply it to this schedule. Bossier City and Florida to start the season at home, both non-playoff teams last season. Then you add Lexington on the road, non-playoff team, and then it starts to get a little tough. Mexico City, at least that's at home. Arizona didn't make the playoff, but always tough. That's at home. Remains to be seen on the road against Birmingham and Miami, and then we close out with Anchorage and a few other teams down there, Bossier City as well as Houston. So, going to be interesting to see how things go. In Fort Worth, I like the vibe of the locker room. I can tell you that already. These guys, they seem like they are poised and ready to go and know what they're doing over there. Yeah, it's pretty much first-class organization, and we'll see what happens.
Mike, you're getting called out. $6.69 super chat from Harish says, MSG would say that when he called me the wrong name at the convention. Mike, what happened?
Drinks happen. That's the only thing I can tell you. Sometimes drinks happen in my life, Cam. Sometimes an adult beverage or two can I'm getting older, Cam. I can barely remember my kids' names, let alone someone else's name from time to time. But hey, it is what it is.
Arizona did make the playoffs too. Apparently, you said that they
missed.
Did? I didn't.
See what I mean? See.
Are you drinking right now? What did you call Harish, by the way, at convention? What was the? Do you remember?
I didn't call him anything. I just couldn't think of it.
I was there. Apparently, I was there. I've blacked it out too.
Yeah,
I was drunk all night that night.
I was actually talking to you, and I could not. I could not recall. I'm sorry.
Let's get to Florida's schedule. They open up against Los Angeles. They have 3 in a row, weeks 5 through 7 at home. They finish at Vancouver versus Miami, a rivalry game, and then at Birmingham.
Yeah, I'm reading over there. He said at least I can cook ribs. But yeah, as well as curry. I can make a pretty good curry as well. But Fort Worth, man, what do we expect from this team? We pretty much know what to expect. These guys are not going to be down long. I don't have the roster in front of me. I don't know if the rookie quarterback from last season is back or not. But they were breaking in a rookie quarterback last season, so we knew it was going to be tough for these guys. But I know as of yesterday, I saw that they were still looking for a couple of key roster spots. So we'll see if they can get those filled out and get back on track. But Right now, Florida's got a small hole to come out of, and we'll see. But these guys are what, five-time champs, so I don't expect them to be down for long. Tough schedule coming out. Well, pretty even matchup with Los Angeles coming out at home, but then Houston, Fort Worth, Chicago. That's going to be tough one way or the other for a team that's trying to bounce back. But expect nothing less from Florida Storm organization.
They do get 2 weeks to prepare for Vancouver, but man, Pittsburgh, Mexico City, Vancouver, three of your four on the back stretch of the season. That's tough when you're looking for some wins and trying to gain some positive playoff momentum. The DC Dragons were a team that nearly made the championship last season, fell just a little bit short. There's a look at how their schedule shakes out. They get an absolutely just outrageous first half of the season. Mexico City, Washington, Pittsburgh, Vancouver, Arizona. The second half a little bit more manageable, but DC's probably looking at that schedule going, man, if we can go 3-2 there, we're going to be feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah, if Chicago's 1, then DC's 1A as far as tough schedules go. This is tough, Cam, to see this on paper as to what DC has in front of them. They had a fantastic season last season, as you mentioned, right there at the end, far as competing for a championship. But it's going to be tough for them to do that again with this schedule that we see. Tough matchups all around: Pittsburgh, Vancouver, Arizona, Minnesota. We expect some things out of them. Chicago as well on that schedule. Yeah, it's going to be tough from top to bottom for the Dragons, but we'll see if they can pull it off and put together a couple of good seasons. We haven't seen them really do that yet, but they're going to have opportunity to do it early on this season.
No, you cannot see Carolina's schedule again. Just because we've already showed it. Okay, there it is. Okay, there it goes. All right, that's another look at the Carolina schedule. Let's go Birmingham. We have, I believe, 2 teams left, Birmingham and Albuquerque, and then we're going to get out of here. The Birmingham Hellhounds, their home opener, Week 3 against Mexico City. 2 weeks to prepare for that one. They have a 3-game road trip, all at West Coast teams, which means that all 3 of their non-conference or non-division road games are against the West, at Vancouver, at Washington, at Anchorage, back-to-back-to-back weeks. That's a little bit of a different schedule. And then 4 straight at home, Oklahoma City, Detroit included in that, along with Fort Worth and Arizona.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how the Hellhounds perform. Is one of the $9 million guys is go to Birmingham with the running back? I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, but
Birmingham's a little bit more conservative. He's $3.7 million, so they didn't go crazy on the cap.
Okay, well, yeah, they are going to have some talent over there. For far as I have seen, what the signings that they have, they've signed quite a few talented players over there. We'll see what they can do, especially coming over. A lot of these, a few of these guys coming over from a solid Denver Nightwing squad. Last season. Going to be interesting to see Bossier City starting out the season. That's a pretty solid way to start out for a team, trying to find their footing against a team that's also changing up a little bit, and it's going to be a good matchup.
Yeah, that should be a tremendous or terrific, whichever one you want to say, Week 1 matchup. Final schedule of the night is Albuquerque's, and Albuquerque will start at home against Minnesota, but then 5 of 6 on the road, including at Vancouver, at Washington, and at Pittsburgh. 4 of their last 5 are at home as Albuquerque tries to rally the troops and hope that they are not all blown up by then. What do you think of Albuquerque's lopsided look?
Yeah, I really like what some of the things I saw them do in free agency the other night. Siege Falco coming back. I really like that signing for them. What's going to be interesting, Cam, is that when Albuquerque, when they were a minor league franchise, obviously they won the championship, I want to say 2, maybe 3 times, but they also would have a down season in there, it seems like, every now and again, but they would bounce back very strong. So I expect to see that this season from these guys. These guys, they know what they're doing over there. First class organization, without a doubt. Key free agent signings. I think they can bounce back this season, Cam. I don't know, as far as looking at the schedule, we'll have to remains to be seen where they're going to get these bounce back wins, but there's going to be some opportunities there. Just looking at, the Minnesota, Anchorage in there as well. So it's going to be some teams that, they're capable of bouncing back against, and we'll see if it happens.
Keith Wheeler in the chat talking
Carolina again.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just at this point, this is just how we're going to end the show. Keith Wheeler in the chat caught a spelling error in Vancouver. You know, first off, that's the type of attention to detail that's going to keep Pittsburgh on top of the league. If you're catching the one spelling error I made. Second of all, I hand typed all of these schedules like in one day. So if you only caught one spelling error, you know what? I'm a pretty great typer, just like I'm a pretty great driver. And that's enough of Carolina. But that's all the team schedules. They'll all be available on the website, simfl.net, including the full schedule and our schedule release article breaking down everything you saw here on the show. Mike St. Green, your final thoughts before we head on out of here.
I was almost glad I wasn't epileptic with that little Carolina thing flashing in front of my face over and over again. I was like, wow, I'm glad I think I'm going to be okay. But man, Cam, great being back with you, man, for 9 seasons and running. Hopefully we can keep this biannual tradition going. You can set your watch to us. Hopefully we'll see you back for a 10th consecutive season if all things stay the same. But fantastic being here, man. Good being here. To preview some of these new teams, preview the new schedule, and get ready for what's going to be a fantastic season 26, man. Looking forward to it.
We're out of here. For Mike St. Green, I'm Cameron Irvine. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll see you on the other side in season 26. Talk to you later.